The number 47 bus lurched to a stop at Harrison Street, and that's when I saw him, a frail old man with silver hair, struggling to climb the steps with a worn leather satchel clutched against his chest. His hands trembled as he gripped the railing, and without thinking, I stood up from my seat. "Here, let me help you," I said, reaching out to steady his elbow. His eyes met mine, pale blue, watery, but sharp with a strange intensity that made me pause for just a heartbeat. "Thank you, dear," he whispered, his voice like dried leaves scraping across pavement. I guided him to the seat beside my 7-year-old son, Marcus, who was absorbed in his handheld game, earbuds firmly in place. The old man settled with a grateful sigh, clutching his satchel even tighter now, as if it contained all his worldly possessions. "Are you all right?" I asked, noting how pale he looked. "Just tired," he said, managing a weak smile. "Been a long day, long life, really." I smiled back and was about to return to my seat when the old man's satchel slipped from his lap. It hit the floor with a thud, and its contents spilled across the grimy bus floor, a bundle of old photographs, a tarnished pocket watch, and what looked like military medals wrapped in faded ribbon. "Oh no," I immediately knelt down to help him gather everything. That's when I noticed Marcus had gone completely still. I glanced up at my son and froze. His face had drained of all color, his eyes fixed on the old man with an expression I'd never seen before, pure, unfiltered terror. "Marcus," I said, confused, "honey, what's wrong?" But Marcus couldn't speak. His mouth opened and closed soundlessly, his small hands gripping the edge of his seat until his knuckles turned white. The old man's eyes had found Marcus too, and something passed between them, some wordless recognition that made the air in the bus feel suddenly thick and suffocating. "You," Marcus finally whispered, his voice barely audible over the rumble of the engine. You're Grandpa Ned." My heart stopped. I looked from my son to the old man and back again, my mind struggling to make sense of what Marcus had just said. Grandpa Ned, my father, the man who had died in a house fire 23 years ago, long before Marcus was ever born. "That's impossible," I breathed. But the old man, this stranger I'd just helped onto the bus, was staring at Marcus with tears streaming down his weathered cheeks. "You can see me," he whispered. "You can actually see me." The photographs scattered on the floor suddenly made terrible sense. I picked one up with shaking hands. It showed a young soldier in uniform, standing proud and tall, with my mother beside him on their wedding day. I'd seen this exact photograph before. It had burned in the fire that took my father's life. "How do you have this?" I demanded, my voice rising. Other passengers were starting to glance our way. "Who are you?" "Mom," Marcus said urgently, tugging at my sleeve. His terror had shifted into something else, a strange, sad understanding that no 7-year-old should possess. "Mom, he's been on the bus before. I've seen him, lots of times." "What?" I looked at Marcus in disbelief. "What are you talking about?" "Every Tuesday," Marcus said softly, still staring at the old man, "when we go to my violin lessons, he's always on this bus, sitting in the back. I thought he was just a sad old man. But last week I saw through him, just for a second, Mom. I could see through him to the seat behind." The bus seemed to tilt around me. I wanted to grab Marcus and run, to get away from this impossible situation, but my body wouldn't move. The old man, my father, if any of this insanity was real, reached out with one translucent hand. "Sarah," he said, and hearing my name in his voice, a voice I'd forgotten but somehow recognized in my bones, nearly broke me. "I never meant for you to see me like this. I've been watching over you both. It's all I could do." "You're dead," I said flatly. "You died in 1993. I was at your funeral. I watched them lower your casket into the ground." "I know," his voice cracked with emotion, "but I couldn't leave, not completely. There was something I never told you, something I never got to say before the fire." The bus rolled to another stop, and several passengers got off, giving us strange looks as they passed. I realized I was kneeling in the aisle of a public bus, having a conversation with what my son claimed was a ghost, surrounded by scattered photographs that shouldn't exist. "This isn't happening," I muttered. "This can't be happening." But Marcus reached out and took the old man's hand, passed his own small hand right through it, and looked up at me with eyes far too ancient for his young face. "He's stuck, Mom. He's been stuck for a really long time." "Stuck," I echoed. Grandpa Ned, because I couldn't deny it anymore, not with those eyes, not with that voice, nodded slowly. "The night of the fire, Sarah, it wasn't an accident. I need you to know that. Someone set it deliberately, and I died trying to understand why. I died with a secret that I never got to share, and now I can't rest until someone knows the truth." My mind reeled. The fire that killed my father had been investigated thoroughly. Faulty wiring, they'd said, an old house, an electrical problem, a tragedy. But now this ghost, this impossibility sitting on the number 47 bus, was telling me it was murder. "Who?" I demanded. "Who set the fire?" But before he could answer, the bus driver's voice crackled over the intercom. "Harrison Park, final stop. Everyone off, please." "No," I said desperately. "Not yet. You have to tell me." "The satchel," Grandpa Ned interrupted, pressing it into my hands. It felt solid, real, impossibly warm. "Everything you need is in here. The evidence I gathered before I died. I couldn't let it burn, so I held on to it. All these years, I've been holding on to it." "Dad," the word felt strange on my lips after so many years. "I'm so proud of you, Sarah," he said, his form beginning to shimmer and fade. "And Marcus, you're special, boy. You've got the gift. Use it wisely. Help others like me when you can." "Wait," Marcus cried out. "Where are you going?" "It's time," Grandpa Ned said simply. "Now that someone knows, now that the truth can come out, I can finally let go." He looked at me one last time. "I love you, sweetheart. I'm sorry I couldn't stay. I'm sorry for all of it." And then he was gone, vanishing like morning mist, leaving only the leather satchel in my lap and the scattered photographs on the floor. The bus driver appeared at the front of the aisle. "Ma'am, you need to exit the bus now." In a daze, I gathered the photographs and helped Marcus to his feet. We stumbled off the bus and stood on the sidewalk as it pulled away, both of us clutching the satchel between us. "Did that really happen?" I whispered. Marcus looked up at me with those wise, sad eyes. "He's free now, Mom. I can feel it. He's finally free." That night after Marcus was asleep, I opened the satchel with trembling hands. Inside, I found newspaper clippings, bank statements, photographs of my father with men I didn't recognize, and a journal filled with his handwriting. As I read, the truth emerged like a nightmare taking shape. My father had been an accountant. He discovered embezzlement at the company where he worked, hundreds of thousands of dollars siphoned off by a senior partner. He'd gathered evidence, planning to go to the authorities, but someone found out. Someone decided that silencing him permanently was easier than facing justice. The name in the journal made my blood run cold. Richard Hartley, my father's best friend, my godfather, the man who'd comforted me at the funeral, who'd helped my mother with the insurance paperwork, who'd been there for every milestone in my life since Dad died. Uncle Richard, who'd used his position as executor of my father's estate to ensure certain documents were never found, who'd gotten wealthy over the past 2 decades while my mother struggled, who'd built his success on stolen money and my father's silence. I sat there in my living room, surrounded by the evidence of a murder that had gone unpunished for 23 years, and I wept. For my father, trapped between worlds for so long. For my mother, who died 5 years ago never knowing the truth. For Marcus, burdened with a gift that let him see the dead and their sorrows. But mostly I wept with relief, because tomorrow I would take this satchel to the police. Tomorrow, justice would finally begin, and tonight, somewhere, my father was finally at rest. In his room, Marcus slept peacefully for the first time in weeks, and in his dreams, an old man with kind eyes and silver hair smiled down at him and whispered, "Thank you."